So who's paying for the often violent protests that we've seen at these ICE facilities across the nation? Here to discuss the money trail is Seamus Bruner. He's the research director for the Government Accountability Institute. Seamus Bruner, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, Steve, good to be with you.
It's great to have you with us in studio, Seamus. So you were recently at the White House to participate in a Antifa roundtable, if you will, discussing who was really behind the movement. Talk to us about what you've uncovered. We often, hear the phrase, follow the money. What have you found?
Yeah, so I work with Peter Schweizer at the Government Accountability Institute. That is our motto, follow the money. I think that is why I was brought on, is to follow the money. And what I told President Trump is that we followed it to the top of what we are calling the protest industrial complex, or Riot Inc. is the term we've come up with. And I said, like every corporation, Riot Inc. has many divisions. Yes, it has the boots on the ground foot soldier division, which is Antifa, but it also has a communications and PR division. It has a very well-funded legal division, and it also has investors, like most corporations. And so we really focus on the investors of Riot Inc. That would be, of course, the Soros Open Society Network. There's other funding networks that a lot of people haven't heard about, like the Arabella funding network, Tides funding network, and there's also foreign investors, like Neville Roy Singham is a name that people are starting to become familiar with. There's also the Swiss billionaire Hans-Jörg Wyss. He's pouring in tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars actually into the American political process, and many of those dollars go into Riot Inc. And so it's important to think about Riot Inc. as, yes, it's got Antifa, but what about all of the other divisions that are helping foment this chaos, enabling the violence, funding it in many cases that we found? And so that was really the message to President Trump. And I think what he found most shocking is that these investors, these local ones like Soros, we also mapped out the Rockefeller funding network, they get taxpayer money. And so there is an indirect path from your pocket to the pockets of the protesters and rioters.
We often hear Soros's name pop up. We hear of World Economic Forum. Some people might interpret this just type of dark cloud over them. Some people might think it's partisan. What are they actually trying to do? What is their end goal?
Yeah, well, so each one of these control oligarchs, I wrote a book about them that I call them the control oligarchs. I mean, ultimately they want to control every aspect of your life, and they do that through a variety of ways. But as far as with the protest industrial complex, well, I mean, there's a number of things that they get from, let's say, a No Kings 2, where they turn out over 1 million people, and for as cringy and memeable as that event may have been, it was also real. And turning out 1 million people, mobilizing 1 million people with the press of a button, basically. They get all kinds of data on those people, finding out who are the most activated and gung-ho about the mission. And then going into 2026, they will be able to activate those individuals, get fundraising, etc. But what I'm seeing from these protests, riots, violent events over the last year is a strong anti-ICE contingent. And what we're finding is that the Soros types, the Tides, Arabella, etc., they have invested a lot of money in bringing the 10 million plus illegal migrants during the Biden years into America. And when they see President Trump cracking down on migration and deporting a large number of illegal migrants, now they've activated the shock troops, and they're coming out with the anti-ICE messaging, trying to get people riled up about this. And ultimately, I think it has a lot to do with elections, bringing in more bodies, because as they lose support in so many ways, they need to replace their voters with new ones.
You hit a lot of points in terms of the data collection. I was actually there on the ground in Chicago, and there were a variety of socialist groups, American socialists, communist groups, and just scanning the QR code, it brings you right in to put in all your data, and then you're on the list. So you're absolutely right. You mentioned before that taxpayer money is playing into this to a certain degree. How are taxpayer dollars being funded into what some might call anti-American initiatives?
Yeah, it's really unsettling. I mean, we know all about USAID now. and how many, 50 billion plus, going to things that a lot of people would not agree are pro-American activities. A lot of that USAID money over the years has gone into the Rockefeller, the Soros, these other big NGOs. But there's other taxpayer money. I mean, they have education initiatives, like the Tide Center gets tens of millions of dollars for its education type initiatives. It comes from the federal government, so everybody's tax dollars, but also a lot of states. California is a huge funder of these NGOs that are basically just political entities that fund every priority and using taxpayer dollars as a force multiplier for a left-wing agenda. So it goes in to the account, and the money's fungible. So it comes out of the account in different forms, and they'll say, oh, well, no, we put the taxpayer dollars over here, and we use the private dollars over here. It really doesn't make a difference. So that money then flows to, I mean, we've documented numerous examples of violent protests, violent riots that were funded directly by Tides, Soros, Arabella network entities, and it's a pretty straight path.
A lot of what you've described seems very complicated. They use different front organizations and proxies, if you will. How to fight against this, expose it? What is the best way that you think to defend and preserve American values and fundamental freedoms amidst the onslaught of everything you described?
Well, with the violent, like boots on the ground Antifa people, they need to be locked up for as long as the law allows. With the people who are committing the crimes, I mean, the way to fix crime, I think, is exactly how President Trump is going about it. You got to get tough on crime. You got to crack down and charge them with everything that they've committed. Because what they've previously had is these Portland prosecutors, the Soros in many cases prosecutors, letting them out of jail. You got the bail funds bailing them out of jail, slaps on the wrist at best. It's really emboldened them. You get them on federal charges, if they've committed federal crimes, and you lock them up for a good long time. I think that'll be a huge deterrent. And then ultimately we need to disrupt. What you and I can do is continue to shine a light on this so that law enforcement can disrupt the funding network and the funding streams.
We hear about systemic problems, and when you see the violence taking place and having to escort each and every car out of the Homeland or ICE facility in Portland, and the riot that erupts each time, and yet all it would take is a phone call from the governor or the mayor to rectify it, and it's not being done. They're either they want this to continue and they are total supporters. And we know that they are. They make their cities, sanctuary cities, and so they have a disagreement with what the American people voted for. But unfortunately, the law is the law, and when the president begins enforcing the law, when the states and the cities get in the way of that, it creates this problem it's not easy to deal with. But the president has the right to deport illegal migrants, especially the violent criminals that he's been going after. So those who get in the way of that, I think, are going to probably be arrested themselves. Director of Research from the Government Accountability Institute, Seamus Bruner, really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Steve.